Hello and welcome to Sal's Show. My name is Paul McGillicuddy. I'm your host today, and I'm also an actor. And we have a very interesting show today. With us today on Sal's Show, we have very special guests. Elaine Gray, writer, director, producer, and John Fahey, who is a TV host and actor.
Thank you, Paul. Pleasure to be here.
So, thank you for coming.
Thank you, Paul. Nice
And
to
welcome.
see you.
Okay. And today, they would like to discuss a book called The Accidental Pope, written by Ray Flynn and Robin Moore. And they have a very special project here because it's been made into a screenplay. And Elaine and John, would you like to tell us all about it?
Sure. The Accidental Pope is a very exciting and intriguing book. It's written by Ray Flynn and Robin Moore, and it was written almost 20 years ago.
Almost, about 2000.
At the cusp of the millennium. And John, you want to talk about
Well,
it?
Elaine, I think you summed it up a little bit. And yes, The Accidental Pope, Paul, was written about the year 2000. It was written by Ray Flynn, the former mayor of Boston and the former ambassador to the Vatican. And the book is a political thriller, if you will, about a man who was accidentally elected to the papacy. And he brings the message of social justice throughout the world. And interestingly enough, it has correlations based on what had happened 20 years ago to what's happening today. So it's kind of prescient. For example, Elaine, the first pope of from the Americas is Bill Kelly in the book.
I see.
He becomes the pope accidentally.
Uh-huh.
And of course it parallels with the first pope from the Americas, which is Pope Francis today. And there's a political intrigue, terrorism, all sorts of things that we see on the world stage today.
I see.
That's in the book as well. So it's an interesting backdrop.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it totally addresses social justice in the book, and that is a focus of the entire story. But it's a page turner because there are so many things that happen. The conclave took place, and there was an impasse. And so, do you want to tell that
And
part?
so Bill Kelly becomes pope, and he was a married man who was widowed, and because of a ruse, the conclave elected him as pope. Now he went to Rome and became Pope Peter II.
I see.
And travels the world now. And as he's traveling the world, there's all sorts of things that's happening to him while he's trying to bring the message of social justice to his flock. So it's a political thriller. It's not a book about religion per se, but it's in the style of perhaps like a Dan Brown, Robin Moore story.
Right.
Oh, interesting to hear. And like you said, it's based on bits and pieces of actual things in history and news.
Right.
From that time, and like you said, it fits right into the contemporary.
It does, and what Elaine and I came to talk about also is because this book has been turned into a screenplay. Ray himself finished the screenplay recently, and hopefully at some point it'll be made into a film.
And
That'd be great.
We're very interested in having that happen.
Exactly, because
for him, and so that the story gets out there, because it's a story that needs to be told out there, and it's told in the book, but now it's a screenplay. And it's a great opportunity with the film industry growing here, and
definitely,
the opportunity is now. It's funny how time works. Sometimes the time's right to do something like that,
I
and
would say so.
sometimes it's not, but this feels like the right time.
It does,
doesn't it?
It does, and it's not only because of the story itself, but because Ray is obviously, Paul, he's a local boy, and there are all sorts of people from this particular area that have done well in the film industry.
Yes, and you told me
screenplays and film, and
it's growing.
Right,
that's right,
exactly, and there are films being shot here in Massachusetts thanks to the tax incentives and the tax credits.
That's good.
So hopefully this book will be made into a film at some point, and of course before it if that happens, there has to be a screenplay.
Yes.
And Ray has completed the screenplay.
And
That's great.
And so here in the book, the ambassador is Ed Kirby,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a parallel.
Kind of,
also.
sort of. We know who
Sort
Ed
of,
Kirby kind of,
but-
sort
but
of
he-
is.
He,
Oh,
comes
all right.
from, he comes from Massachusetts.
Uh-huh.
Bill Kelly's
Bill-
the fisherman.
Bill Kelly is the
Bill
The
fisherman.
Kelly.
Pope. The Pope.
Is the Pope, but Ed Kirby is the ambassador.
Right.
I see.
And that's sort of like, it might be semi-autobiographical perhaps a little bit here, but Ray
Oh.
Ray was the ambassador to the Vatican during the Clinton
Yes,
administration.
yes.
Right.
the-
So he very
He had
insightful.
all the resources
Right, he had all the
available to
resources.
him
Oh, he went-
to be
yeah.
able to create
Because he
these
was there, and he
characters.
did
Yeah.
research, and he got to learn things,
Mhm.
the template to write a novel.
And he was
That's
also very close to John Paul II.
Mm.
You know, and
traveled
and
with
is a
him.
friend of Francis, the current Pope. So it makes a very interesting story, you know, because it's written by somebody who was actually involved in the Vatican, in the
That's
diplomatic
right.
corps. So now we're hoping that the screenplay does get turned into a film.
And so you're doing the interviews, going around and letting it be known, and I think that's a very
But
good
it's
thing.
available, right? And
Yeah.
Ray and I have done
Getting
a
the
few
word.
projects, public relations wise. And actually, you had mentioned it in the great introduction that you did for both of us. But Elaine, and if I can say this, Elaine, because Elaine didn't mention this, Elaine's a publicist as
Oh,
well.
I see.
And she's worked in public relations with Ray.
That's
And-
great. Yeah.
But we're both coming from the entertainment industry now. When we talk about this, we feel that the book is a great book, great
Mhm.
story. It was on the bestseller list, New York
Yeah.
Times bestseller list. It's written by somebody who was actually there. So, and Ray was part of the diplomatic
Yes.
corps as well as
Mhm.
Mayor of Boston, of course.
Okay.
And now it's a screenplay from Boston, and
That's
all
great.
sorts of things are happening in Boston.
It's a happening place.
Of course,
Yeah.
of course.
Some would call it, it's a long shot, but some are saying Hollywood East. That's stretching
Well,
it, but
no,
yeah.
well, Paul. Actually, many films have been actually. You were in a couple yourself, the award-winning films. But
Right.
but yes, movies are shot here. Movies are made here.
Yes.
Feature
And
films.
feature films, and even if this weren't made here, were made somewhere else, we hope
Yeah.
it would be made here.
It would be popular in
It's
this
popular
spot.
here because Ray's from Boston.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So
you-
all the puzzle pieces have been put together
Yeah.
now.
Right.
With having the screenplay and the book, the message needs to get out, and that's what John and I are trying
Yeah.
to accomplish, to get people excited
I'm
about
glad,
it.
yeah, that's good that you've been acquainted with Ray Flynn for a long time now?
Yes.
Both of
I
you?
have.
That's good.
Yes.
I've never met him, but I watched him on TV and I read his articles in the paper. Interesting man. Do you also know Robin Moore? Have you met him?
No.
No.
Okay. His other books were bestsellers too, like The Green Berets and many others. I think he's even connected with, he's written songs too, didn't he? I think he wrote the Ballad of the Green Beret.
I'm not quite sure
I'm
about
not
that.
sure, but
I'm not quite sure about that, but
I
it
did.
brings
That's
it brings to light the immense talent, right?
a multiple talent.
That we have here, and no less than with Ray Flynn.
And Ray Flynn, he's
Yeah.
This
an
area is like-
athlete, and
right.
he's and been involved in so many things.
He was actually he was voted the most popular athlete out
Yeah,
of South Boston.
they
Oh, really?
just named a
interesting.
park after him in
Mhm.
South Boston, am I correct?
They
Yeah.
did, yes. And we got, Elaine and I were on a show recently, and a caller called in. And the caller said, you know, I've known Ray because he was the mayor of Boston, and
Right.
because he was part of the diplomatic corps, of course. But I didn't know he wrote the book. And that's something that we want people to know about. This particular listener, or viewer, of this
Uh-huh.
TV show that we were on,
I see.
called in and said, I didn't know that. That was a part of Ray that I didn't know about. So this way people know that the book is out there, the screenplay has been completed, and hopefully we're keeping our fingers crossed, it
Yeah.
will turn into a film.
The book's available on Amazon.
.com.
I'll definitely
St.
read
Mark's
it,
Press.
and
It's
I wish you the
available at
best
the
on it,
libraries.
yeah.
Yes.
I really, the way you're talking about it, I'm very intrigued, and I hope it works out. Most likely it will.
The story just is the way it's woven. It starts. It piques your interest right from the beginning with the conclave and the different characters in the conclave and how it works. I never was familiar
Right,
with
peop-
the workings of the conclave. It's just exciting to learn that after all these years. You know, I was involved going
good.
to Catholic school when I was a child,
Uh-huh.
and right up until junior high, and never really knew what was going on there.
Right.
Yes.
What Ray does here is the beginning of the book. We have the conclave, which is the election of the Pope. When a Pope dies, a new Pope is elected. So conclave merely means that everything is shut down and these cardinals go into a conclave, a meeting
For so
by
many
themselves
days.
for so many days until a new Pope is elected.
And then that's when the smoke goes up.
Right.
Yeah.
And what happens here is Bill Kelly is elected. He's not there with them. He's here in Massachusetts because he's a fisherman. But because
and
of
he's married with children.
he's accidentally, his name is put into contention and then he's elected.
Accidental Pope.
Yeah, accidental
Yeah.
Pope. But the backdrop, Paul, is something that everybody would be familiar with. Yet people will know by reading the book the process of a conclave, which is accurate, of course. But the backdrop here is political terrorism, health concerns,
Yes.
politics, and the message of social justice pervasive throughout the world.
Right, right.
They're all important aspects,
That's right.
especially now. I have a question. Has Ray Flynn written other books?
Yes, he wrote a book several years ago about his relationship with John Paul II. He traveled with him extensively, and it's more or less a book about his experience traveling with John Paul II while he was in the diplomatic corps. And that's available too, as far as I know, that's available too on Amazon.com.
I see. Okay, that sounds interesting. He has a lot of experience.
But he's
writing.
also a prolific writer too. He writes columns. He writes columns for the Pilot, which is the Boston, the Catholic newspaper in the
Yes.
Archdiocese of Boston, and he's a columnist for the Herald as well.
Oh, that's good. The screenplay, Elaine, John, have you actually read it, the screenplay yet?
We haven't.
I haven't.
The book we have.
Yeah, it's not available yet, yeah.
We haven't actually gone through the screenplay, and he's been tweaking it. He's been
Yeah.
tweaking
Yeah,
it as
we're-
well
we're-
because he's bringing it up to the current. He's brought it up to the current. time. Updated it.
That's great.
So even though the book is almost 20 years old, the screenplay has things in it that are a little more recent than that.
I see. As with any book that's made into a screenplay, they have to condense it for one thing, and they add and take out things. So it will be the same basic story, though.
It'll be pretty much the same story. There is some new aspects to it.
There's some new aspects
Yeah.
to it.
It's interesting.
And I think, you may know a little more about this, but I think when the screenplay is submitted to whoever is going to direct it or do it, I don't know 100% how this works, but sometimes the screenplay is
Yeah.
Okay.
When you
changed a little bit
Yeah.
based
Yeah,
on
okay.
certain things that the director might want or whatever, but the basic story will be the same.
Exactly, yeah. I'm sure he'll pick all the right producers, directors, and all. Well, it's been a very interesting to hear from both of you, because you know Ray Flynn, and you read the book, and it sounds very exciting. I look forward to it. And so, well, thank you for coming on the show and introducing the book by Ray Flynn and The Accidental Pope. I learned the whole thing here. Thank you for the Q&A here, and
You're welcome.
thank you for coming on the show,
Thank you.
John and Elaine.
Thank you,
Thank
Paul,
you.
for hosting us, and also
Thank you
for
for
our
having
viewers,
us
and I
here.
hope our viewers find the book as interesting as we do.
Okay, this has been the interview with John Fahey and Elaine Gray